What is up, y'all, and welcome into this week's episode of the On the Bluff podcast, episode 123. I am your host, Gabe Kuhn, and beside me is my guy, co-host Kenny Stubblefield. Now, if you're wondering where Christian's been, he's doing the Lord's work, helping out some people and doing some recovery from the storms that ripped through, Memphis and surrounding areas a couple of weeks ago. But Kenny, what's happening, brother?
My brother, how are you, man?
I'm hanging in there. I had a good weekend. Myers experienced his first Masters. There was that. I watched Rory go completely bipolar on Sunday. That was the most insane final round of a Masters in recent memory that I can remember.
Yes.
But what'd you do this weekend?
Normally I mow my yard on Sunday, and today was going to be the first day, right? The first mow of the season. Sunday was going to be the first mow of the season. And then I started watching Rory go buck wild in that final round of the Masters, and I was like, I can't turn this off. Right. So I'm going to have to let it ride for another week. But what a crazy round.
He had like a 5-stroke lead at one point. He had 14 under. He double bogeyed, and it got close. Yeah. Then the final hole, it's just so funny to me. Like on 15, he hit that ridiculous shot, wrapping it out of the trees.
Unbelievable.
Just like shades of Tiger Woods. In the
Tiger Woods, yes.
And then on 18, he misses like a nice 7-foot putt. Like it was so up and down the whole day. I could never get a feel. But can I be honest? I'm glad he got it done, the career Grand Slam, 6th golfer to do it in the history of the game. I'm glad he got it done so we don't have to have the same conversation every year. In April when we get to the Masters, because that was getting tiring.
It was.
And I just had to say the same shit on my radio show. Same shit every year. Is Rory going to do it? Is he going to complete the Grand Slam? Well, it's done.
Well, you have to feel he probably feels the same exact way that you do, right? Like not having to hear that every freaking time he goes to the Masters, right? But
took him what?
Shout out. Yeah.
Better part of 11 years?
I think it was 17 appearances at the Masters is what I read yesterday.
Yeah, but between
in terms of
his last major, the third tick off the list, and now it's been 11 years. I think
crazy.
I think I got that right. But shout out to Rory, man. That was fun over the weekend. But you watched some volleyball this weekend, I understand.
Yeah, dude. So my daughter, obviously, she's kind of turned into a little volleyball player. Plays for a fantastic club here in Memphis, and they had their final tournament of the weekend, bro, and it was I don't understand why I'm so tired by the end of it. Like I get just exhausted watching her play. Like we come home, they're early mornings, but it's not any earlier than when you get up to take your kids to school during the week, so it's not like that crazy. But you just get home and it's like dead to the world in our house, and I think I realized like I get my heart rate, I have one of these little watches that tell me what my heart rate is wild during those games, man. Like I am as engaged, like my watch reads that I am in a heavy workout when I'm watching her play. And I'm just like, anyway, by the time it's all said and done, 5 hours later, get exhausted. But yeah, she had a good weekend, man. She had a really fun, her team has had some struggles this year, I think, in terms of just continuity and coaching and things like that, continuity of coaches. They had a rough start to the year. They ended strong, man. They got into the gold bracket for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
They play kind of a pool play during Saturday. Sunday, they either go to the gold, silver, or bronze bracket. She made the gold bracket. I do just want to say, man, one of the joys of my life these last few years is being able to watch my daughter play volleyball, because we have tried, Gabe, and you're going to realize this with Myers, and every other parent is going to realize that, like, as you are, there's probably a ton of parents that are listening to this that say, yes, we're in it right now, or we're getting our kids into trying to find something that they love. Dude, we've done everything throughout our time as parents of Selah. She has been involved in everything. She's done it all because I want to do this, or I want to do this. And we're just trying to help her find what her niche is. Right. Yeah. Well, 2 years ago, she found volleyball. And it was a joyous occasion for my family, especially my wife, because my wife, being the best athlete in our family, played Division I volleyball. And so we never pushed her to play volleyball, but when she fell in love with it, my wife was like, hell yeah. Like it was a joyous moment.
That was a win. That was a dub for her.
So she started playing rec ball, and then she got into a club experience and played in club with a local club out east of Memphis, and this club experience was so good for her, man, because it taught her the game, taught her she learned a little bit about how to work, how to play, how to practice, those kinds of things. Well, then Selah kind of decided this past summer, I want to move on. I want to try for a club that will help me do bigger things, right? Like I want to do this kind of stuff. So she moved on from that club. And it has been such a joy to see her grow and to see her struggle at times, right?
Yeah.
You get better, you become a better person when you persevere through struggle. We had an experience this weekend, and I'm going to be careful in how I say it because I don't want to cause any issues for anybody, but there's the former club that she was a part of, man, was super frustrating to me because they played her team in this gold bracket this week. And the team that she would have played for, if she had stayed at this former club, they played in the first match of this gold bracket.
I get a feeling I know where this is headed to.
And it got in Selah's head a little bit, bro. It kind of messed with her because she wanted to prove herself, right? She wanted to prove that like we all do. We all have those struggles, right?
Yeah.
When you go and play,
like I made the right decision to move to the team I'm on now,
right?
That type of thing. Yeah.
Professional NBA players do this. They hype up a game, right? Like it becomes the revenge game, those kinds of things. And that's what Selah kind of fell to that a little bit this weekend. She kind of got a little pressure in her brain. She made some rookie errors, some rookie mistakes in that game against her former team. And I'll just say this, man, like ain't none of these 13-year-old girls getting recruited by D1 colleges yet. These girls we're here to teach these girls how to love the game, how to play the game, and all that kind of stuff. And I have never been more aggravated and upset with a group of coaches that literally gloated over my daughter's struggles in that game. And because she left them, they are gloating and happy that she was struggling in that game. And this is grown women we're talking about. And I just
like how I hate to laugh. Like how fucking embarrassing is that?
It's embarrassing.
A grown ass woman worried about the decision of a 13-year-old to switch teams. And like finding happiness when she's struggling, like that's embarrassing as shit. I'm sorry.
It is.
Like that's one thing though, Kenny. Like by the time Myers gets to that age, that's one thing I'm not looking forward to. The overbearing parents, overbearing coaches, people that take themselves too damn serious. I mean, I dealt with it growing up, whether it's travel baseball or football or just training sessions. Like that's one thing I am not looking forward to in the slightest.
Well, I cash apped you some bail money this past weekend because there was a strong chance that me and Mama Bear were going to be needing your services, get us to bond us out of jail. But no, we were good. We handled ourselves well. Selah handled herself with class, while the adults that literally helped teach her how to play the game gloated in her mistakes. And I just want to say, if
whoever those people are come across this episode, I'll say it. You're an embarrassment. That's embarrassing. Like, get over yourself. That pisses me off for you, dude.
Yeah,
but you were going to be a 2-on-1 over that? That would have made you much better, brother.
I know. Oh, I know. Hey, but I didn't though. Yeah,
you held it together.
I held it together.
I'm glad to hear it. All right, now let's go ahead and get into what everybody wants to discuss, and that's the Tiger basketball team attacking the transfer portal. We know that Quante Berry was the first transfer commit that Penny Hardaway and company got. Right. That was a couple of weeks ago. But over the weekend, 2 commits have rolled in. One, we're familiar with this guy, Ashton Hardaway. He comes back. And then the other one is Julius Thedford. We'll get to him in a second. Let me ask you this, Kenny. Because I think we discussed this all pretty similarly when Ashton Hardaway left after this past offseason. What do you think about Ashton making his way back to Memphis? Like, I like the connection with him and his dad. Yeah. He's a guy who wants to win. He hasn't been very highly productive in college, so it's not like he's expecting 15, 20 minutes a night. I think he does provide a little optionality because he is 6'9". You can put him on a 3 or a 4 defensively. I think he's a plus shooter, more spot up, catch and shoot guy than off the dribble. So that's a bit of a positive, even though the percentages don't reflect that. I view him as a guy who's going to have to earn his minutes off the bench, even though his dad's a coach. I mean, that's how it was the first time. I don't expect it to be much different this time.
I find it funny that Memphis fans are upset about this because we were just clamoring about this idea that Jared Harris is leaving, right? Like Jared Harris being a freshman, struggled when he got out there to play. It was clear the game was too fast for him. Did you see spots and moments where you were like, okay, we see what they see in Jared Harris. We see the athleticism. We see what he can do. But man, wouldn't it be great if Penny could keep a guy for this amount of time and develop them over the years? Well, this is now what Penny Hardaway is doing, and it just so happens the kid's last name is Hardaway, right? Like this guy was with his son was with him his freshman year. You saw moments, games. They wouldn't win that Michigan game if it wasn't for Ashton Hardaway, right? Like they wouldn't have won that game if it wasn't for him. Did he struggle at times? Yes, he was a freshman. Yes, he absolutely struggled. Was he out of shape a lot of the year? Yes, because he was a freshman and he had never had to be in the shape he was supposed to be in to play D1 basketball. But could you see the talent level there? Yes, it was there. The fact that he's coming back now, I just go, yeah, man, like it makes sense to me, right? Like you get him for somebody, you fill a need, a big shooter, right? Like a guy with size who can shoot, which clearly Penny Hardaway has been going after this entire transfer portal season already. I think it's disappointing. I think it's a sad reality that the guys from that the 23-24 team all kind of get lumped into the same, situation where it was like the disappointment.
Such a disappointment. You just want it out of your brain.
Just get out of my face, right?
Yeah.
And I would say kudos to Ashton Hardaway to be willing to dive back into the midst of all that, right? Because people, until he comes out and proves it, people are going to be like, ugh, it's just Ashton Hardaway.
Here's the truth of Ashton: 2 points, 1 rebound per game in 9 minutes last year for St. Mary's.
Yeah.
I do like the fact that he's coming from a high-level 5-seed program, a program that out in the West Coast Conference is pretty consistently the top. He sees, he went from dysfunction to, highly functioning. So he's going to come back to Memphis with that in mind. Like he's been around, he understands it a little bit more and how it's supposed to look, what it's supposed to look like day in, day out on the practice floor, night in, night out when you're actually playing games. I'm going to be honest though. This is my unfiltered thought on it. It's like when Ashton Hardaway left, I think we were all in the same boat on this. He's not a perfect fit for his dad's system by any stretch of the imagination. He's not a guy who's going to wow you with a bunch of athleticism and defensive prowess, on ball hounding defense. That's not who he is. And he's not necessarily great at getting up and down the floor, not overly fast. He's not like a perfect fit, but if we're talking about a guy who's going to be coming off the bench, 7th, 8th, 9th guy, this is fine. This is fine. Now, if he ends up being some type of starter, which is not going to happen, Penny Hardaway knows and probably has an understanding with his son, you're going to have to go earn your minutes. But if he was a starter, this would be a problem. But if we're talking about a bench piece, I don't think we need to put too much damn thought into it by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
There needs to be.
He's probably better than
man. We're going to talk about PJ Haggerty in a bit. Like you have to. This is going to sound wrong. And it's going to sound like I'm maybe disrespecting Ashton Hardaway, who was a 4-star out of high school, mind you, like he was a big recruit. You have to find some bargains. You just do. You have to. Sure. You can't just go get big names anymore because the game's changing day by day. And the University of Memphis is struggling more day by day when the house settlement comes through and you're going to have revenue sharing. And like the amount of teams that can outbid you are going to be nuts. And you have PJ Haggerty that you still have to give money to. So you have to find there's some budgetary pieces you're going to have to add. And I think Ashton kind of fits that category to a certain extent.
Yeah, no, I agree. I do think, a bargain. He's a not a lot of cost to bring him here. He's a guy who, like you said, could come off the bench and add value. Is he better than Dink Yates? Yes, he's better than Dink Yates. More than likely, he's better than Dink Yates.
Different player altogether. Though,
right. But in terms of what he can produce on the court, he's better.
I think I could make the argument. I don't know if I saw enough of Dink. I could make the argument Dink might be more a slightly better fit, even though he's less talented for Penny. You know what I mean? just because of the athleticism and the length and the defense and the rebounding and all that stuff.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, he might be a guy who, has learned his body a little bit better. Ashton has. He might know how to use his body a little bit better than he did as a freshman. I mean, like, he was a freshman. The last time we saw him play, he was a freshman. And, the St. Mary's situation was different. If you kind of go behind the scenes of what happens in St. Mary's, like you can kind of look at some of the political stuff behind it with, who their target is when their main recruiting pool that they recruit from is overseas talent, European players. There is a level of political stuff with that, of who to play, when to play, how to play. So you keep that recruiting pool wide open. You don't want to be a team that recruits specifically in one side of the country and then brings those players over and then doesn't play them, right? Like that becomes a massive checkbox in we're not going to St. Mary's. So there's a part of that was an issue with Ashton. I don't know if necessarily his lack of minutes was because he wasn't good enough. I think his lack of minutes was a political thing in a lot of ways. So I just don't know, man. I think expectations are low, and I think that's okay for Ashton Hardaway. And just give him the opportunity to come in and exceed those expectations. Like you said, he was a 4-star recruit. So,
yep. All right, now let's get to the bigger news over Ashton. No disrespect to Ashton, but we have a reuniting of sorts. A guy who played at Whitehaven and Cordova, committed to Western Kentucky, played big minutes as a freshman, as a true, averaged big points, quite frankly, as a true at Western Kentucky. Julius Thedford is headed back to the University of Memphis. And based on everything he has said to the media, this was always part of his plan. He really wanted to make his way back to the University of Memphis.
Love that.
But this should be a more exciting ad. University of Memphis, Penny Hardaway, they were competing with a lot of other people on the open market for Julius Thedford services. 12 points per game, 4 rebounds per game. Right around 40% from the field, 37% thereabout from 3. If you get catch and shoot from him, right around 39%. But he is a 6'4" lump of clay that can score at all 3 levels. He's a bucket getter. He plays tenacious on-ball defense on the perimeter. Like, you can mold him into something special, especially getting back to his roots here in the city of Memphis. I'm excited for this one because I think – when you added him, that was on Monday, you sort of got a picture of what this backcourt's going to look like for the most part. You have seemingly PJ Haggerty, Dante Harris, Quante Berry, and now you put in a guy like Julius Thedford, all highly productive, all guys who can handle the ball.
Physical
guys that are physical, guys that will play hard defense, guys that will get up and down the floor and run, guys that can all handle it for the most part. Like, I think you're starting to get a vision of what Penny Hardaway has in mind for next year's backcourt, at least at the 1 and the 2 guard.
Yeah, I agree. You talked about with Ashton, him not being a guy who fits Penny Hardaway's system. Well, this is the exact opposite.
Yeah, he fits perfectly.
Julius Thedford fits perfectly in Penny Hardaway's system. And so big time get, obviously coming in as a freshman, averaging 12 points a game. You go, okay, there's something there, right? Like, there's natural progressions that your players go through year by year by year as they get older, as they get more mature in their body, as they understand their body better. You just get stronger, you get bigger, you get better. And so if Julius Thedford is coming into Western Kentucky and putting up the numbers that he did, imagine, a natural progression of things, bringing him in June, right? Like, being able to get him on campus and put him through the ringer at Memphis, throughout the summer and fall. Like, it's just a perfect fit.
So 2 thoughts on, like, the way the transfer portal classes come together. And 2 pretty positive thoughts, I think, for the most part. First one, you found guys with multiple years. These are not 1-year mercenaries. Like, you have Quante Berry with 2 potential more years. PJ Haggerty has 2 more years if he stays. Dante Harris, I think, is 1 more year, but that's different. You look at Ashton Hardaway 2 more years, Julius Thedford 3 more years. So, like, you have some runway. Now, keeping them on campus, way easier said than done. We know the continuity is not a strength of Penny Hardaway and hasn't been for some time. I think he's trying to flip the script on that. I would love to ask that question to his face because I'd imagine that goes into some of the guys they're putting out feelers on and recruiting. So that's the first takeaway. My second takeaway, and people outside of Memphis wouldn't quite understand where I'm going with this. People in Memphis, people listening to the show, absolutely get where I'm coming from. To bring in 2 guys over the weekend that understand the city and the university's basketball team and they understand what it means.
Right.
I think that's big, man. Like thinking of the past, like Penny himself, Larry Finch, Joe Jackson back in the day, like bringing in some guys from the city that understand the city and what this team means to it. I think that's damn important. Julius Thedford from the city, Ashton Hardaway, his dad has probably taken him through that. They probably understand it. There's an understanding there. But people outside of Memphis don't quite understand why that's a big selling point when it comes to Memphis recruits, why you want a certain amount of guys from Memphis on this roster. It's because I don't think people outside of Memphis understand like the gravity this program still has, the hold it has on the city. Because like previous to the Grizzlies, it was the pro team. Memphis football wasn't making headway. When the XFL was here, wasn't making no damn headway. USA, it was the pro team.
Yeah.
Now the Grizzlies have cut into that to a certain extent. Obviously, they are the pro team, but I think that same type of following is still present here in a city of 1 million people. It's really, if you think about the program at the University of Memphis, it really is unique in that way. You're talking about a major metropolitan city whose college team was the pseudo pro team forever until the Grizzlies got here. So there's still that gravity, that weight that this city puts on this program. And I think guys need to understand that. And we've seen pretty often, like I think a good example is the 23-24 team, man.
Yeah.
That Ashton Hardaway was a part of a couple of years ago. Like, I don't think any of those guys quite understood what they were getting into.
Yeah.
Until it went bad. When it went bad, they started to realize, oh shit, this is not a normal college basketball market. This is different. This market is run by college basketball, quite frankly.
Yeah, I think it tells you a lot about the players that make those decisions to stay at home, right? Like it's got to be so difficult to having grown up and been ingrained in that Memphis Tiger basketball culture for so long, and then to have that dream of playing and let's be frank about it, man. Like in a lot of ways, there's not been a whole lot of success that's come from having a ton of Memphis players on your squad.
Sure.
Right. Like it's not,
I in the past,
yes.
In the past, there has been.
Right.
Lately, not so much.
Yeah.
But in the past, sure.
And I would say even the idea though that like let's think about it in this sense, like I genuinely think that Alex Lomax was criminally underrated because of where he was from. If he was an outside guy coming in and playing point guard for the city of Memphis, for the University of Memphis, I think he would have been treated much differently than he was being from the city. I think he was treated. I think he was viewed in a different way. Like the narratives, the conversations around why he played because of his relationship with Penny Hardaway. Like it was very in a lot of ways, I would say toxic in the way that it was handled by Memphis fans. There is a level of that, I think, that you have to be wary of. If you're a Memphis guy, a high school player in Memphis, being wary of those unrealistic expectations put on you by Memphis fans. And so for a guy like Julius Thedford, a guy like Ashton Hardaway, who didn't grow up here but has the last name of the most popular guy that's ever played basketball in the city of Memphis, I would say it shows me a lot about their character, their willingness to put themselves back into that fray, right?
Yeah, like obviously it comes with a lot more, weaponization of play, like if you play badly. But also it comes with more visibility. You know what I mean? Like there's casual fans that'll roll into FedEx Forum and be like, oh, like I watched Julius Thedford play at Cordova. I watched him play at Whitehaven. Like
I saw Alex Lomax in 7th grade.
It cuts both ways. You can get criticized unfairly and it goes too far, but you also, if you play well, that love's through the damn roof.
100%. 100%. You can, I agree with that. There's very few times where it's that you end your time at Memphis just kind of coasting through and making it all the way through. It's either we love you or the opposite of that.
Yes,
You know what I'm
the
saying?
opposite of that. All right, now I think we all agree Memphis fans love PJ Haggerty.
Yes.
One of the top 5 leading scorers in the country, or top 6. But there is some questions about the outside offers that he's fielding right now, and if he's going to stay at the University of Memphis. I'll say this: every day that passes, you should feel more confident about PJ Haggerty staying. He has actually kept this whole thing very close to the vest. Like
Yes,
he's just negotiating, talking, seeing what's out there. Hasn't gotten to the portal. Mind you, keep in mind the portal will be closing here on April 22nd. So if he doesn't get in the portal by then, we're basically mostly in the clear. But his silence and him just sort of not really being outward, talking to media. How do you take it, Kenny? Or I guess the better way to put it is like, is there a way to take it? Is there anything we should take away from his silence?
I think what's that phrase you always hear? The best indicator of the future is what happened in the past. I know it's a different way people say it, more eloquent way, but look at the way that PJ handled the transfer portal last year, right? Immediately got in as soon as Tulsa's season ended and was the first guy out, right? Like he was Memphis's first commitment in the 2024-25 season in the transfer portal, made his decision, knew where he wanted to go, and made it quickly. So indicators wise to me that his silence and just lack of shopping offers publicly. Now, does that mean that schools aren't reaching out to PJ and offering him behind the scenes? Of course they are.
I think we all are under the assumption that he's gotten some offers rolling through. That doesn't mean that he's entered the transfer portals thinking about leaving, though.
There's been rumors of kind of what his fair market value. PJ from the beginning, him and his dad, who is the person who runs his entire process, have basically made it very clear we want fair market value and a team surrounding PJ that can win. They're about winning. They want to win. They're not looking to break the bank on anybody. There's been rumors all these last 2 weeks that kind of blew everything up on Twitter about these offers that PJ is getting. I'll be frank with you, man. Like, if the numbers that I'm hearing that he was offered by a certain Big 12 school that was number 1 in the country for a while last year and then dropped how many straight games in a row and got what rank were they? What were they in the NCAA tournament? Anyway,
they were 7.
Were they a 7?
Yeah, they were 7.
So they were 7 seed. If the rumors are true about what that team has offered him, it is 3x what the number 1 player in the transfer portal this year is being offered has already committed to, right? If that's the case, if that offer is real, PJ, take it, bro. Like, take it.
I don't think it's quite 3x, although I guess rumors tend to circulate that way. But
1.5.
If it is 3x,
let's go 1.5x then. We'll go 1.5.
Yeah, if it's 1.5x, it's like PJ,
take it.
Go get the bag,
it,
brother.
I think that there are people out there that are pretending to represent PJ and talking to people about like what he's expecting, what his demand is to be a player for whatever school he's going to go end up at. Those people they don't speak for PJ Haggerty. There are 2 people that speak for PJ Haggerty. I've said this on multiple shows. There's only 2 people that speak for PJ Haggerty. I mentioned him earlier in this whole conversation.
PJ and his pops.
I think PJ's silence to me tells me that if he was truly shopping for the best offer possible, then why not get in the transfer portal?
Right. Like, he's probably got multiple of those offers too. JT Toppin was a second-team All-American unanimously, just like PJ Haggerty. He brought in $4 million to stay back at Texas Tech. So if we're just equating that to what PJ Haggerty would get, $4 million is probably an okay starting point. At least $3 million. And I'm just gonna my thoughts on this. Like, one, I think if PJ were going to take those offers at face value, he'd have been in the portal already. So I feel pretty confident about him coming back to Memphis. But like considering what Memphis can offer him realistically without completely blowing the entire budget, you're maybe halving his top offer and offering him a hug. Like, we love you, man. Like, at least you get to get coached by Penny again. You don't have to learn a new system. That's the extra sweetener. But like in the end of the day, let's say PJ got into the portal tomorrow. I don't think it would be through any real fault of Penny Hardaway, of this program. And I know there's been a lot of debates raging on about football money, basketball money, who should get a lion's share of that. I don't think it would be any fault from the athletic department either, because I just think Memphis is in this position where you can't offer the same money that others are offering. So you have to try to bridge the gap with an inordinate amount of love and trust. That's all you can do. That's why I say $2.5 million and a hug. That's basically what you can offer. So, as much as we're sitting here trying to pry out the answers, trying to speculate on the answers, I think whatever the answer is, I think we should be at peace for the most part.
Yeah.
Just because I don't think there's much you can do. If he decides to leave, he's going for a bag that Memphis never had an opportunity to offer, can't in a million years offer.
Yeah, and I mean I agree with that. I would say the Toppin and like Yaxel Lindenborg numbers that are floating around are a little bit skewed because they are bigs, right? Like they're bigs in this portal. If you're a big with a pulse, Quincy,
you're
getting a bag. Quincy Ballard from Wichita State got $1.5 million from Mississippi State. So in terms of like, when I say, if you look at the numbers that are being put out there about PJ, I'm talking about specifically the highest paid guards out there are the ones that so the fair market value for a guard is going to be slightly lower than the fair market value for a big. A big is going to get way more money,
which is hilarious considering what wins in the NCAA tournament.
100%, right? 100%. But no, I am. I'm not concerned about PJ Haggerty because I think he's going to make the best decision for himself. I'm not concerned about what it means for Memphis because I think Penny has proven that he can pivot really well if things don't go his way.
That would be a big one though. Let's be honest.
That's a big one.
That'd be the biggest to date where it's like I have to pivot and I have to pivot
quickly
and
expeditiously,
as good as anybody in the country, because PJ Haggerty's not a replaceable guy. Like that's you're not replacing that production 1-to-1 with anybody else in the country that's in the
1,000%. I agree. I agree with that.
But 100%. Like with all the discussions around like football and basketball and NIL money, like how do you feel about all that? Well, they're saying it's skewed to football. They should skew it a little further to basketball because if football was going to get us into a bigger conference, we'd already be there. I think that's a little defeatist, personally. I don't think that, just because you haven't gotten there doesn't mean you should stop trying. I think this is the time where you need to try maybe even a little bit harder, control what you can control. But either way, I think what a lot of those people miss, though, with this PJ Haggerty situation, even if you skewed all the money to the basketball program, like every bit of NIL, which is not a realistic thing, I still don't think they'd be able to match up with some of the offers out there for PJ Haggerty, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I think that, and I want to stay kind of away from that conversation because it's so much deeper than just conference realignment issues. Like we're not talking about money being passed back and forth because Memphis is trying to get into a big conference, and that's because they're right now.
It's about, but like the argument is like you're strengthening your football program to make yourself more attractive than you have been in the past, and your basketball program may suffer because of like there's just some give and take to it. But it is kind of funny, that whole conversation, because what's been the overarching take of why Memphis never got to where they wanted to go, dating back to the 90s and the early 2000s? Didn't invest enough in football.
Right.
Now you invest enough in football, and everybody's questioning themselves, like, is it worth it?
Yeah.
I listen, man. I'm not smart enough to make those decisions. That's why I think a guy back there and Ed Scott is smart enough to make those decisions. That's why I think he's in that position.
Here, I have two concerns about it, and that's this and this might be. There's probably Memphis Tiger fans that have been Tiger fans a whole hell of a lot longer than I have been, and so they probably have a better understanding and grasp of the geography, the all the ins and outs of what it's meant to be a Tiger football fan. And you tell me, you know this better than I do because you were a Tiger football player, so you understand the dynamic between the university's athletic department in terms of how they treat football, how they treat basketball. My fear is this: you've got to be able to figure out a way to engage your football program, to uplift your football program, to make it more attractive to these larger conferences without risking hurting the one program that literally has the most famous Memphian of all time coaching.
Sure, I get it. Like, I understand that, but I don't think they're like bankrupting the fucking basketball program to pay football. I don't think that's how that works. But I think a lot of that narrative that you sort of pressed out is because of the generational tie that some Memphis fans have to the basketball program that they don't have to the football program.
And why do you think that is? I have
because the football program's never been anything until the last decade, a little bit over that. So
I think a large portion of the issue is that you have a ton of people in Memphis that are massive historical Memphis basketball fans.
Yes, correct.
That are fans of Ole Miss, that are fans of Georgia, that are fans of Mississippi State,
correct,
that are fans of Tennessee football. And so I wonder if you are trying to grow your football team to compete with that, I think that's a failure. I think that's a failed effort. I don't think you're ever going to be able to take fans that are monster fans of Ole Miss, monster fans of Mississippi State, because the proximity to it, and turn them Tiger football fans.
But I'm not saying that's what you're going to do. I'm just saying that I think the narrative that's created out there about, okay, stop trying as hard as football because you may lose a little bit from your basketball lore. I think that comes from the generational fandom that's been built through Memphis basketball as opposed to football. I don't think you're ever going to sway Ole Miss, Tennessee fans, Alabama. You're never going to sway them in Memphis to be Memphis football fans. But I think you would be fooling yourself if you don't think that, like, at least giving somewhat in an effort could help make this program, this athletic department, attractive enough to move into a conference like that. I think it's a little defeatist, that narrative that we're talking about. I'm not saying that I know when the next form of realignment is going to come along and when Memphis football is ultimately going to get them to where they want to go. But I do know that if those decisions are going to be made while they're still being made, football is going to be ultimately, and I know people get so annoyed with this conversation, it's ultimately going to be the kicker, the ticket that gets you there.
Yeah.
Because the TV revenue is so much bigger there. They have to rationalize in those big conferences. Okay, basketball can be its own thing. Like Memphis basketball, it's stamped. It's got its deal. And I understand the argument for those people saying, well, you're letting that go downhill. And if football can't get you there, what's going to get you there? But if you're a bigger conference, say the ACC, and you're deciding, okay, we're going to give them a percentage of our TV revenue in football, that's the conversation. Are they worth it? Are they worthy of the TV revenue we're going to give them every year? So I don't know. You just have to strengthen it. I think obviously the only way forward is split it as you see fit, try to help out both programs. But I think that's, considering where we're headed with house settlement and revenue sharing and everything else. And I know I'm getting a little convoluted here, but considering where we're headed, I think that's kind of a bit of a losing approach. But I don't know if there's a way that you can win if you're a school like Memphis right now.
I really do.
Outside looking in, it's just hard.
I really do. I said this in the last Tigers Live of the season finale that we did after the first round loss to Colorado State. I'm not concerned about what Penny Hardaway can do as the basketball coach for the University of Memphis or what Ryan Silverville can do as the football coach for the University of Memphis. I am concerned about what this program and this athletic department looks like in 5 years with this growing divide that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Can Memphis compete? And I have a lot of concern about that. And
yeah, man. The long-term outlook for all this shit is it's terrifying.
It's terrifying.
Like, cause the level, even in the AAC that we hate.
Yeah.
Like the dock, how much that's going to be docked by the new iteration of whatever we move forward to, and this growing divide and what's being watched and where the TV networks are spending their money. Like, it's just going to keep growing until, I don't know, until we'll see. We'll see. I just think the Memphis needs to make themselves as attractive as possible. And I don't think, taking from either program to give to the other is the answer.
Right now. I want to reiterate, I am not a abandon football for the sake of basketball kind of guy. There are some ridiculous comments and ridiculous arguments being made to that regard across all social medias and radio and all that kind of stuff. I'm not that guy.
Those are the people that are generational basketball fans for the University of Memphis. So they can't get out of that view of what they grew up watching, what they grew up loving. And it wasn't Memphis football.
But even to the same degree, I would say there's some generational basketball haters that would give basketball or would take money from basketball and give it to women's soccer or to men's baseball or to any other sport to make that as listen. And I'm all for those sports, but if we're talking about trying to compete in this generation, in this era of college sports, it has to be through football and basketball.
They both have to be strong too.
They have to be. And so like there's ridiculous comments being made from both sides of the camp. And I would just say there is right to be concerned. But it just kind of is what it is at this point.
I mean, but also what I would say to those people, I get why you're concerned. I'm concerned about the same things. But I think we need to give the athletic department heads credit.
A chance here.
Ed Scott, Tim Duncan, the otherwise, like you need to give them some credit. It was the first time in history both those programs were in the postseason AP top 25. So like as much as we can worry about what's going to happen in the future, I think the steps in the present have shown to be pretty effective, if that makes sense.
I agree totally with that.
So, yeah. Now let's go ahead and grab a break on that note. And when we come back, we're going to hop into the hot three. And I think we're going to open in one place only. Vol fans may need to cover their ears, but we'll be right back.
Right now, we have a very happy Ja Morant who's playing the best basketball he's played, I'm going to say, in his career, bro, because we're seeing Ja not just get to the basket, but he's got the floater going. He's got the mid-range going. The three-point shot is falling right now. And I think we're in a good season right now with Ja. I don't mean this. I mean good. I'm talking church talk now, but we're in a good time right now with Ja Morant, right? Whatever it takes for Ja to be happy, I'm down for it. If it's doing gun celebrations and getting fined $75,000, those are the things that keep Ja Morant going, bro. Sign me up for all that shit, bro. Because like I said, the version of Ja I saw with a shiesty on and like looking like super melodramatic in the locker room and look, it just mouthing like saying like being short with the media and all these type of things, and that shit was not fun at all, bro. Like that version of Ja was awful. I'm excited about what I'm seeing this version of Ja Morant and what that can mean for not just the rest of this season, man, but just going forward.
Tune in to the Anthony Sane Show Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 p.m. weekly on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
I guess let's do the role play. Trey, you are Dane. I am the NCAA. You say what? I want another year. And I say, you played your 4 years.
But, sir, I didn't. There's so many people out here that are getting fifth year. I played 4 years of college basketball, one of which was 3 games. Give me my 5th year.
All right, Mr. NCAA, I have an argument for you. There's a guy that's playing in Austin, Texas right now that the team that I'm trying to play for got beat on a last-second Hail Mary shot at Houston 17 years ago. This guy was a freshman then. His name is Tremont Mark. And he just got granted another year for his 17th year of college basketball. How in the hell does Tremont Mark play 25 years in college basketball and I can't get 4?
He's played 4 years of 30 games plus a year of 7. And he's getting another one.
That would be my biggest argument.
Outrageous.
How the hell does this dude get time and I don't?
Tune in to Tigers Untapped with your hosts, Trey Lasley and TJ Willis, every Tuesday at 3 p.m. on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Hey,
There it is.
We're back.
Yes, sir.
I'll take care of that in post. My apologies. I got distracted. Listen, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but TJ Willis has beautiful eyes and beautiful hair. I get distracted.
You were
by
watching
it.
the commercial?
Yeah, I get distracted by it. Every show I'm like, dude, you gotta put some glasses on or something, bro. You disagree?
Don't say another man has beautiful eyes. Come on. we need people to stay tuned to the show.
All right, I'm going to need your help. Let's get to the hot 3. For this first topic, I'm going to need your help. Nico, how do you say his last name?
Iamaleava. However you want to say it, to be honest. I've heard it every other way.
Nico enters the portal. He left the University of Tennessee. Well, actually, he didn't leave. He negotiated. Said, I'm not coming to spring training. I'm not coming to spring camp. I'm not participating in meetings.
He was in spring camp. He didn't go to the spring game in the final.
Oh, he didn't. I thought it was so it was one Friday. He didn't go, right? He didn't go last Friday. And was basically saying, unless you give me $4 million a year instead of was it 2.8 that he had signed a contract for?
2.5. It was the biggest NIL deal that we had known at the time it was signed.
So he decides, I want more, which this happens almost every single year in professional sports. But is this the first time publicly we've seen this happen in college sports? And Tennessee responded with, see ya.
Yeah, I'll say it's not the first time we've seen it. It's the most public we've seen it. And next year, one of the big conversations is going to be who's going to win the Nico Tennessee divorce. That's going to be an ongoing conversation. I'm excited for it. And this is a bit of a sidebar. As much as we hate situations like this and they're bothersome, it does create for some drama that we do ultimately like by the end. The end result always is pretty interesting. Let's go to the beginning of this, though, because I want to lay this out for our listeners. So this started with Pete Nakos from On3. He's the NIL and transfer portal reporter for On3. He reported that Nico Iamaleava was asking for $4 million behind the scenes, basically a raise of $1.5 million. The next day, Nick Iamaleava, who is Nico's father, and his closest confidant besides his agent, went to Twitter or X and basically called Pete Nakos a bitch. He's like, Pete Nakos never came to us about this. I don't know who's leaking this information, but it wasn't us. Now, On3 stood by their reporting, said it was correct. And then the next day, after Nico's dad called Pete Nakos a bitch, Nico wasn't at practice. So then we started to realize, okay, Pete Nakos was correct. He's clearly trying to negotiate behind the scenes. And
he might not be a bitch.
Tennessee ends up letting Nico walk. Nico goes to the transfer portal. Josh Heupel says no one's bigger than the power T. And here we are today, recording this on a Monday. And after Rory McIlroy wins the first Grand Slam in the better part of 2 decades, we're talking about Nico Iamaleava, or Lavea, as one of the biggest stories in sports. I'm going to be honest. I'm usually pro athlete. I don't understand this one, though.
Yeah, this is weird.
Nico didn't live up to his $2.5 million contract, to be honest, last year. Yeah. That offense was ran through Dylan Sampson, who was one of the best running backs in the country. That was a defensive football team, to be honest with you. That defense was very good and kept him afloat in a lot of games. Nico was okay at sort of managing the game, but he never did anything overly game breaking. He missed some easy throws, a little errant with his passes. I thought he was similar to Joe Milton, to be honest. Yeah, he's younger. He's got a longer runway than Joe Milton to develop, but would you pay Joe Milton $2.5 to $4 million? Probably not.
No.
So I'm actually with Tennessee and the decision they made on this, because I think in any walk of life, any industry, you could be a podcast host, a radio host, college football player, NFL player, NBA player. You could be an accountant. If you step to the negotiating table when your contract is up and ask for more money, you do have to have a certain amount of production to rationalize getting a pay raise. And based on what Nico did, he didn't have the statistics or the numbers to rationalize getting $1.5 million more dollars.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see a lot more of this because of the lack of guardrails, lack of structure around how we go about things in college football, NIL, transfer portal, the whole 9 yards. I think we have created a sense of entitlement to a certain extent within these players. And I thought Nico tried to bite off more than he could chew. Tennessee says to hell with it. We'll go get somebody else, or we'll play this guy Merklinger behind you, or whatever his name is, a redshirt freshman or something like that. He was a 4-star previously. They have Faison Brandon, who's a 5-star coming into next year's class. Like, they had options. You clearly got bad advice from your dad or an agent, and that's why we're here today talking about it. It frustrates me because it goes back to my overwhelming take about agents and player confidants. Like, you need to have people in your corner that are giving you better advice, giving you smarter advice. And I just don't think Nico had that. And, you know, the original thought was, okay, if Nico's not getting that from Tennessee, where's he going to get it from? You know, who's out there? So there was an assumption, okay, somebody out there is offering him $4 million. But then we get to the official entrance into the transfer portal, and you see 3 schools involved, one of which who's backed out already. UCLA, North Carolina, and Tulane. North Carolina's already backed out. So UCLA and Tulane are the 2 teams sort of involved here. And it's like, not only do I think you won't get $4 million, Nico, I don't think you'll match what you got at Tennessee.
2.5, my brother.
I don't get this, man. It's gross. It's bad. And, you know, I think there's a misnomer about what has happened here. I get angry with people that use NIL as a crutch. NIL is ruining college sports. No, it's not NIL necessarily. It's the lack of oversight and structure around NIL that you're angry with. You just don't know it. And I think this is just another example in the long list of examples we've had since it became a thing.
I mean, you can go even deeper than that and say it's not just the oversight and structure behind NIL. It's the oversight behind who can represent who in these negotiations, right? Like, when I hear the word agent, when it comes to these kinds of conversations, bro, there's literally one dude that I think of, and it's just not. It's not an attractive picture of what an actual agent looks like.
I mean, I was talking to a coach recently, and I'm not going to name names, who says a majority of the players that he has coached have gotten their agent and gotten connected through their agent through Instagram.
1,000%.
Like that's not how you find a reputable, good agent.
Right.
But that's how most of them are doing it right now. And I think the most frustrating thing for me, especially with the agency space, is like, there's an NCAA certification you can go get. You can go get it. But the problem is that NCAA certification isn't a requirement to be an agent. Kenny, you and I, without that certification, can go be agents and make as much money as we want. But I think if you're going to have a certification like that, every single agent that represents any player under that umbrella should be certified by that entity.
Yeah.
To see all these guys operating out of bounds, operating away from the certification, That's where the problem comes in for me.
1,000%.
It's predatory. It's wrong. We're not going through the right avenues. And that's why you ultimately get shitty advice like this.
Yes. And you ultimately, I mean, honestly, like you've been through the whole process of interviewing with NFL teams, that whole process. This will follow Nico. This situation, the way this was handled, will absolutely follow him. So not only is he going to probably lose money, right? The teams that are involved with him now probably can't even afford the 2.5 that he was making at at Tennessee this year. So he's going to make less than what he was making at Tennessee, what he was guaranteed to make at Tennessee, a contract that he had willingly signed himself, number one. Number two, this whole entire scenario, how this is played out, the narrative around how this is played out is going to follow him all the way until draft day.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. It's an early indicator of the value he places in himself versus what's real. And I can tell you, NFL front offices, when they're negotiating deals, do not take kindly to that type of strong arm business, man.
Never.
It's not how it works. And that's what frustrates me the most. The way he went about this, based on what he did last year, that's not how real life works in any industry.
Ever.
Yet he tried to make it work for college football.
Yep.
That's what I can't understand. He went into the playoff, threw 31 passes, and had 104 yards. 31 passes, 104 yards in his one playoff game. Brother, that doesn't get you $1.5 million more. That should get you a pay cut, for God's sakes. That would get you a pay cut in most industries. Yep. But he tried to do this, and I think it's going to hurt him. Hopefully it's a lesson, because it's seeming like he's not going to land where he wants to land.
Yeah.
I still think he's a good quarterback that has some real potential, but he didn't reach that at Tennessee, and he acted like he was a Heisman candidate. Never was that. I just think he's a failure all around. And I don't blame Tennessee at all for what they've done. And one of the funniest things that has come of this, I think what's become clear to me, universities and programs, they're way better at PR than players and agents are. They're way better at PR. They understand timeliness and getting your story out quickly. So even if Nico gets his story out and there was something else going on behind the scenes 2 months from now, if that's when he gets the story out, no one's going to take that and run with it the way that we have right here in this moment.
Yeah, these schools have a bigger microphone, man. It's unfortunate, but it is.
Well, they've also been doing it for 100 years, and
that's right.
Player agents at the college level have been doing it for 3. There's a big difference in history and experience when it comes to the PR managers in both those instances.
It's just kind of I know this is kind of a muted conversation about this because it's sad. It's honestly, the way this is going to play out for Nico is sad, and it kind of just makes you just go ugh for him, right?
Yeah, and have you seen the 2023 class according to 247, the top 8 quarterbacks? The 7 of the top 8 quarterbacks from the 2023 class, according to 247, have all transferred. The only one that hasn't, Arch Manning, still at Texas. And I think that highlights sort of what's going on. I think a lot of these players, the amount of pressure that's being put on them to be breadwinners for their family is forcing them into decisions they don't necessarily or wouldn't make otherwise. Arch Manning was obviously coming into Texas with generational wealth anyway. So he didn't just care about the highest payday. He cared about development and finding the best spot for him to capitalize on his college career and get into the NFL. And that's why he hasn't left yet. He still trusts that process.
And once again, when you use the word predatory, that's what you mean.
Correct.
They are praying.
Then the agents are taking 10%, 20% off top, which is absolutely heinous. That is gross. Yeah. In the NFL, I don't know if people understand like the differences of what we're seeing right now. The NFL agents that are certified by the NFL Players Association. First of all, it's strenuous. You have to have a law degree, and you have to pass the test every year. But even if you do all that, you can only get 3% of the contract.
Yep.
At the college level, they don't have to go through anything, no certification at all, and most of them are taking 10+% of the contracts that they're negotiating. That is about as predatory as you can get, and I can't think of a better example to sort of highlight that.
Yep, 100%. All right, let's get to topic number 2. It is Tuesday afternoon, and tonight the Memphis Grizzlies face off against the Golden State Warriors, their old nemesis, the Golden State Warriors, in the 7-8 play-in game. I mean, I think we can move on past we can have this conversation for a few minutes, but it's clear the Grizzlies have tumbled all the way down, right? They were, starting the after the All-Star break, I think they were 2 or 3 in the Western Conference playoff seedings, and they have had a rough end of the year and are now in the 8th spot playing in San Francisco against the Golden State Warriors. Any thoughts about just the end of the season for the Grizzlies and kind of like the
ton.
Yeah,
I have a ton of thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah.
I can't stress to people enough how bad they've been defensively.
Yeah.
Everybody was worried about the offense when Taylor Jenkins was here. It was always like the defense and what the fall off since the trade of Marcus Smart and Jake LaRavia. It couldn't be more apparent. Have you seen like the amount of blow-bys they have per game, like guys just driving directly past them? And then that's why you see Zach Edey and Jaren Jackson getting in foul trouble. That's also why you see Zach Edey coming up to help, and you have Rudy Gobert in the Timberwolves game getting a bunch of just easy buckets off bounce passes when Zach Edey has to help. You see Aaron Gordon get 33 off a bunch of damn baseline cuts because here's Zach Edey and Jaren Jackson Jr. trying to help the guy getting blown past on the perimeter, and there's an easy drop off to Aaron Gordon. So that's what really pisses me off. And also they take a bunch of warm-up jumpers. There could be a guy wide open on the weak side when you rotate to help. That happens so constantly.
Yep.
But yeah, man, this game in particular, you have the Grizzlies who have been awful since the trade deadline. One of the worst defenses and teams in the NBA since the trade deadline versus a team that acquired Jimmy Butler at the trade deadline and has gone 23-8.
Yeah.
These two teams could not be going in more opposite directions. Now, there is some hope, I guess. That Grizzlies game that they played last against the Warriors was pretty competitive. And the reason that the Warriors were able to get over top, I think it was 134-125, something like that. Steph Curry had 52. Yeah. I don't think he can match that again. Although I guess it's possible.
I mean, he could, but yeah.
But that's a hard thing to match.
Yeah.
They went perfect from the free throw line. It was like 18. It was something ridiculous. They were perfect from the free throw line. They did a lot of things well, and the Grizzlies were still in that game. So it's not like the Grizzlies can't beat this Warriors team. But I think the stat that jumps out to me is this year, when they have played a team that is above them in the Western Conference standings. Do you want to know what their record is?
Not
they played
good.
25 such games where a team in the Western Conference is a better seed in a better position than them. They're 6-19 in those games.
Yeah, it's not great.
So, it's a one-off. Anything can happen, but if this season tells us anything, if the final stretch tells us anything, it's going to be a real uphill battle to win in freaking San Francisco in front of those fans.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be a tough game, but it seems honestly like this was always meant to be Golden State versus Memphis again. Some of the biggest battles that Memphis has ever had in the playoffs and the play-in have been with Golden State. There is just heat.
Similar situation in 2021 in the bubble.
Yeah,
where they won 117-112 to get the 8 seed.
There's just heat with this team. This whole Ja Morant kerfluffle with the celebration started during the Golden State game.
True.
Draymond Green has had a lot of conversations around Dylan Brooks and the Grizzlies. He's had conversations around Taylor Jenkins and the Grizzlies. He calls Zach Edey this, that, and the third.
Almost got signed by the
Grizzlies, which I still think he would have been awesome for the Grizzlies if he played for the Grizzlies. There's just a lot of heat there, man. And obviously you have the narrative of Jimmy Butler coming out during the trade situation saying, I'll go anywhere but Memphis, you know, like there's and I know, listen, I am not above turning that storyline into a he hates Memphis, which then obviously turns it into Memphis versus everybody. But I mean, clearly that was just about the money, right? Like he wasn't going to get an extension from Memphis and decided I want to go somewhere where I can get paid, and that was not going to be there. So that's what I think it was.
Well, I don't even think
he
he really wanted to end up in Golden State. He wanted to be in what was it, Phoenix?
Phoenix, yeah, he wanted to be in Phoenix.
So,
yeah.
I mean, but I think everybody outside of Phoenix, every team outside of Phoenix was not on his list. So
yeah.
There were just some that were worse than others, and he painted Memphis, according to most sources, as the worst of all.
Don't trade for me. I'm not coming there. All right, cool. Well, we'll see you in the play-in, brother. I think. Do you think there's a possibility that Memphis tanked the season just to play Jimmy Butler and go in the play-in game? Do you think there's a possibility?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a way to spin the story.
It's good. I'm taking it. I'm running with it. But I will say this though: Bluff City Media is hosting a watch party at Ghost River Brewing at 7 p.m. tonight. Come out, hang out with us, man. We're gonna have a good time. There's gonna be good drinks, good food. The kitchen will be wide open. There's gonna be $5 beers, $6 simple cocktails with Old Dominic. It is gonna be a lot of fun. The coolest part is we're going to be giving away, whether it be if they lose this game on Tuesday night, if they lose this game tonight, they're gonna play a home game on Friday night for the last play-in game. If they win tonight, then you will have a chance to either win tickets to Friday night's game or game 3 of the Western Conference round 1 playoff series with Memphis. The first home game
against the Rockets.
Which would be against the Rockets, which would be fired 2 courtside seats. All you had to do is come, be there, get a raffle ticket, and you could be there on the court. So
all right.
Lots of fun.
Real quick, you know what grinds my gears though around this entire topic?
What's that?
The people that want to avoid, like, say they lose to the Warriors, they want to lose again to avoid playing the Thunder and getting embarrassed, and also potentially protect that top 15 pick, so they can use it. What are we doing?
What are you doing?
You really want another rookie into this mess right now?
No, we don't.
No, I can't think of anything worse. For me, I would hate that if they got knocked out of the playoffs, demoralizing as hell, considering we're 4 or 5 years into this thing, and they were way more healthy than they were this year. But to think about missing the playoffs and then trying to go find another evaluation and pick another young guy in the first round, F that, dude.
Listen.
I'm so done with that part of this upward supposed trajectory, this window that they're in. It's beyond time to go use the mid-level exception or go trade for somebody big. Yeah. Like be aggressive to go get vets and experience instead of just trying to internally develop constantly. I'm tired of the people who have brought it up. And first of all, that's not being talked about in the locker room, obviously.
No.
But second of all, I can't think of anything less appetizing than tanking out of the playoffs to potentially keep your freaking lottery protected early or late lottery pick. Get the hell out of here with that.
The funny part about it to me is this idea that Memphis has control over whether or not they're going to lose these games or not. Like, they could easily lose both. Right. Play their ass off and lose both. Yeah. Like, with the way they've been trending, it could happen. They could be out. And that doesn't mean they're tanking, but could they win these games? Absolutely. They could absolutely win Tuesday night.
If it's a sweep, if they lose to the Warriors, beat the Kings or the Mavs, and get swept by the Thunder, so be it. At least they were in the damn playoffs, man.
They were there. Were there.
And at least there's more scars.
Oh, it'll suck.
At least they can figure out what they did wrong, where they went wrong, and move on with themselves. Like, figure something out. And I also want to see, personally, Tomas Asalo coach in a playoff atmosphere to see because if that's the guy they're going to hire ultimately, which most of us think that's going to be the case, don't you want to see him coach against a really tough opponent and see if he can pull some strings, make something happen, steal a game? Right. I would love to see that.
The very people that are saying that they should tank these 2 games, not get into the playoffs, and protect their 14th pick in the draft are the very same people that in about 6 to 7 months are going to be complaining that this Grizzlies team has no playoff experience. Get in the playoff.
Right.
Get in. Get in and lose
Seriously.
if you're going to lose. Get in
For
and
real.
get those scars if you're going to get those scars. Like, we need G.G. Jackson and Vince Williams. If those are the guys, which it seems very clear to me, that Zach Kleiman has drafted those guys and put money into those guys and believes, like, hey, for this thing to work, those guys have – for Zach Edey to be the guy, he has to be – like, for this thing to work, Zach Edey has to be the guy, right? Like, he has to be what Zach Kleiman drafted him to be.
Yeah.
But he has to have the scars to be able to do it. He has
Yeah.
to get into the playoffs. He has to get those. He has to get beat. He has to get those scars. Stop acting like these guys are just going to get better without those scars. They have to be in it. And so,
Yeah.
yes, I agree. If you want them to do that, then you have to sign a blood oath with me that you are not going to complain in 7 months that this team has no.
They're not
playoff.
experienced enough in the
You're
playoffs.
not experienced enough. You have to sign a blood oath with me that you will not complain when they lose a Tuesday night game, game 13 of the season, and be like, well, shit, they ain't got enough playoff experience. Well, you're the one that asked them to tank. You're the one that wanted
I
to
think
tank.
that's fair. Blood oath. Full on blood oath.
You gotta. I will prick your finger, and you gotta sign your X, man. You gotta do it. That's what I think. All right. Let's get on to the last one. We've been going for too long. It's me and you. We do this. Let's get to the NBA playoffs as a whole. Gabe, I have a question for you. What matchup, round one, that we know is going to happen, what matchup are you the most excited to see?
Well, Grizzlies Warriors for obvious reasons, but if we're talking about an actual series that's set, I'm going to go with the Lakers and Timberwolves for a bunch of reasons. The star power, it's not rivaled by anybody else. Like, even the one seeds, the Cavs and the Thunder, don't have near the star power that series is going to have. You have Anthony Edwards, LeBron James, Luka Doncic. Say no more. That's must-see TV. But also on top of that, let's not forget about this. Remember the Western Conference Finals last year? Who was playing? The Dallas Mavericks versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. Luka Doncic hooped. It was one of the best series I've ever seen him play. Propelled the Mavs into the finals against the Celtics, where they lost, of course. But he was able to outduel Anthony Edwards in that Wolves team.
Yes.
So there's a little bit of bad blood there. It's like Luka was able to kick the Wolves' ass in that series last year, and the Wolves want to try to get their get back. And you're playing against the Lakers. I just think there's an added sense of urgency for this Wolves team to really give the Lakers all they can handle. And I think, the matchups in themselves are kind of fun because you give the sort of backcourt wing, whatever you want to term it as, because it's LeBron and Luka. They're so multiple. It's hard to really give them position. But, like, you give that to the Lakers, Luka and LeBron and wing, backcourt, rotation, that whole thing. But when you look at the bigs, Timberwolves have a chance to really expose the Lakers. And that's going to be an interesting chess match between Chris Finch and JJ Redick, because you have Rudy Gobert, Julius Randle, Naz Reid on one side, and you have Jackson Hayes on the other. So it's like, how do the Lakers handle this? Are they going to be able to go small, or is Jackson Hayes going to have to play 40 minutes a game? If they're able to go small consistently, I think they'll be on the winning side of the series. But if Jackson Hayes has to play extended minutes, they'll probably lose the series.
And obviously, who is Rudy Gobert? Who is Naz Reid? Who is Julius Randle going to guard in a guard-heavy lineup with a bunch of playmakers? We've seen Jared Vanderbilt. We've seen Rui Hachimura. We've seen those guys be able to guard the post. But can those guys, those bigs for Minnesota, guard the optionality that kind of killer lineup that LA has? Can they hang with that?
I remember the Jazz versus the Clippers.
Yeah.
When Rudy Gobert was still on the Jazz.
Yeah.
And the Clippers went tiny, and Terrence Mann was playing the 5.
Yes.
And Rudy Gobert could not get out to the 3-point line to guard him to save his life. So Terrence Mann was either taking the 3 every time or pump faking and driving to the lane. And he had a dunk over Rudy Gobert. If you can do that, if you're the Lakers and you can sort of mimic that and create that with Rui Hachimura in the corner, you could really scheme your way. This is JJ Redick's been impressive, though. I think
he's been impressive.
People should give him a couple of apologies. 50-win season, that whole thing. I want to see what he looks like in the playoffs, though, because that's a totally different thing. But the other matchup I'm looking forward to is the other 3-6 matchup in the East. Yeah. Knicks versus Pistons should be fun. Pistons have not won a playoff game since 2008, and I'll give Cade Cunningham the stamp of, like, you're a star.
Yeah.
But we know with every star, you have to do some things in the playoffs before we give you that extra legacy bump. And if Cade can come out and give the Knicks a run for their money, have a good series, potentially win it, we're going to be talking about Cade Cunningham going into next year with a completely different conversation than we've had about him in the past.
I'll say this, that Knicks Detroit Pistons matchup is my favorite matchup of the entire first round because the opportunity for an upset is so apparent to me. Detroit is a good basketball team. They have a lot of scorers and they have a ton of bigs that can really do damage. And they play with a level of fire and grit and
physicality, brother.
Physicality. And I'll just be frank with you. I think the Knicks are soft. I really do.
It's kind of funny because I think there's a misnomer about that because Tom Thibodeau's the coach and they have a couple of guys that you think are really good defenders, Mikal Bridges and OG and Josh Hart too. But it's like they don't. If you've paid attention to them this year, they're not a great defensive team. They're very much an offensive minded ball team, and they've lost that edge. Like I think people have this assumption that the Knicks are going to be able to stay in a physical battle against the Pistons. If the Pistons can junk it up, they will beat the hell out of the Knicks.
I agree. And I will go as far as to say I am picking that to be an upset series. I am picking Detroit to beat the New York Knicks in the first round because I believe in what they have as a team. I think that they are are ready to do some damage in this playoffs. And JB Bickerstaff is obviously somebody the Grizzlies, fan base knows well. I am excited to see him get his due that he's owed, right? Like he deserves this series, I think, honestly. So that's going to be an interesting one to me.
Anything else?
If the Grizzlies can get into the 7th seed and they play against Houston, I think Grizzlies can beat Houston. I'll say that. And I think that's a good matchup for them. I think it's a good matchup.
I'd be honest.
I think it's the best matchup for him possible.
He and I disagree a fair amount. This is one where I disagree with him. I don't think they stand a chance against the Rockets in a 7-game series.
I do. I think they can beat them.
I think
we'll see though.
Where the Rockets will wear them the hell out.
Oh, I think it'll be better than if they play Oklahoma City in the first round.
Well, I mean, it's a different thing. That's a totally different thing.
But that's it though. Good job.
Yes, sir. Good job.
That is the hot 3.
Let me tell folks.
Thanks for disagreeing with me.
We're about to roll, but like, subscribe, share, comment, do all that good stuff for all of our great podcasts, whether it be On the Bluff right here with us or, the Anthony Sane Show,
Night Court.
Night Court. It could be all those. Make sure you go like, subscribe to everything on the Believe and Bluff City Media Podcast Network. Make sure you go to bluffcitymedia.co. You can check out the podcast there as well as some articles. I know that Roman Cleary is doing a good job of following everything that's going on, the goings on with the Tigers and the transfer portal. So check out all of his great work. But you know what? We will meet up again next week. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to On the Bluff. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. Head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co for comprehensive coverage of Memphis sports and how you can become an insider.